Hi, and welcome to this brand new season of Impetus Interviews, a series of conversations where we take a deeper dive into the projects highlighted by this year's European Union Prize for Citizen Science. This time round, we are hearing the voices of the marginalized with the HEROINES project. We are joined by Ivan Djordjević from the HEROINES project, which this year received the grand prize at the European Union Citizen Science Awards. HEROINES is a powerful initiative built on citizen science and solidarity, working with and for Roma women to reclaim history, foster networks, and drive real change, but perhaps more importantly, to have their voices heard and their stories shared. We now jump to that interview. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us today, Ivan.
Thank you for inviting me.
So to begin with, I'd like to just delve a little bit deeper into the HEROINES project a little bit. The project is focusing on female emancipation of Roma communities in Serbia. And I just wanted to ask you first to gain a little bit more understanding of the current challenges being faced by the Roma communities across Europe and why the HEROINES project decided to center these voices, particularly of Roma women, within the project and these conversations.
Focusing on Roma challenges and what actually Roma communities challenge in Europe is something that is, let's say, historically well known in a way that Roma are probably the largest European minority without the state. So they are stateless ethnic group. And mostly Roma live in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe, but they're like spread all over the continent. And what is common for all of them is basically the history of marginalization, history of discrimination. And of course, it was much worse back then. For example, in the 19th century, where Roma people, for example, in Romania, were basically slaves, and it was like an unofficial rule. They were trying to and managing to escape to today's Serbia, running from a really dire situation. The other thing that happened in their recent history is what happened to them in Second World War, because it's not really known, and it was very recognized very late in the 21st century, officially recognized by the authorities, that Roma people were also victims of a Holocaust. Murdered and put in a concentration camps all over Europe and in former Yugoslavia as well. So we can say that even though, of course, there is a big improvement in human rights in whole Europe and including Serbia, the Roma in Europe still face prejudices. Roma people in Europe still face marginalization and discrimination on many, many, many levels, including, I would be like free to say, and call it by its name, racism.
So it just seems like the Roma community have been quite marginalized for a long time, but have been somewhat an invisible sort of community that have just not been, like, they haven't had the safeguards put into place within quite modern history, I suppose, and modern kind of politics.
Exactly. Like without the state, it's not easy in this world of nations. It's not easy to basically survive in this world, and without any kind of protection. Like basically every minority in Europe, they have their own state, which call upon, or like be a recognized minority. For Roma people, it was even hard to manage to be recognized as an official minority and use the rights that minorities have in like different and in various states. And that is basically the reason why they were so invisible in recent history, like because they are examples of, for example, sterilizations that took place for Roma people in some states in Eastern Europe during the 1950s and 1960s. It's what was forced sterilization, and it's something that most of the people actually don't know that was happening in our continent. I don't know, maybe 50 or 40 years ago. It was the official state policy because they were invisible and nobody cared, actually.
So I have to admit, didn't know an awful lot about the history of the Roma people, to be honest. I know of their existence and I know that they've been having issues, but it wasn't something, it felt like a blind spot in even my own education. And perhaps, as you say, without kind of having this stated and having a place perhaps on like trans governmental boards and and the like, their issues just uh don't get the same soapbox as issues being faced or communities in other countries, I suppose.
Exactly,
Mhm,
exactly. That's why this battle is ongoing,
mhm,
let's say, to be recognized at least as a minority and an official minority, and then they can have at least a voice, even if it is not really heard. It
mhm.
still exists, and that's why it is important to recognize Roma people as a minority, or if you know what I mean.
No, yes, of course, yeah. In your project is mostly based in Serbia, and the Romani people there make up about 2% of the population, I believe. I'm just wondering within Serbia and perhaps other countries where Roma people occupy exist, uh, what sort of representation do they have currently, like political, social, and yeah, what are the next steps in trying to make these community voices uh, influence kind of the policy and drive positive change, I suppose.
That question is very complicated, like starting from the scratch, because officially there is a, let's say, 130,000 or something like that, or 40,000 Roma who declared themselves as Roma in Serbia.
Hmm.
But their number in reality is much bigger because a lot of them they use so-called ethnic mimicry. They're hiding that they belong to a Roma ethnic group, and they declare themselves as, I don't know, Serbs or Hungarians, whatnot, uh, to prevent a sort of a discrimination they would face if they declared themselves as Roma. So nobody knows how many Roma live in Serbia or in Eastern Europe, and it's, of course, if we speak like in a way that it's not important, even like if it is 100,000 people, it's still a lot. Of
Hmm.
course, it's not like, but when we talk about that, we have to mention that we don't actually know how many Roma live in Serbia or former Yugoslavia or in the region or in Central or Eastern Europe, because a lot of them hide. Also, a lot of them work abroad and they just travel abroad and they're not physically present, for example, in Serbia. So they can't declare themselves in a census to say, okay, I'm here and I'm Roma. They're at that point in Germany, for example. And that's, I'm talking about it because I know how it goes because I talk to many Roma activists. So even though they don't know, estimations are really weird because
Hmm.
some estimations from Council of Europe say that there are I don't know, 500,000 Roma in Serbia, which is really a lot. It's almost 10% of the Serbian citizens. But I guess this is not a real number as well. But when we talk about it, it's very important to say that, even the number of them is somehow vague and you don't. Uh, so starting from that point, you can see that. Even when you come to political representation and policy related issues, it's not definitely easy to grasp all the problems they have, starting with that they don't know how many of them are.
Hmm.
Now in Serbia, they have official status of minority, which means that they can use different rights. For example, having a right to go to school in their own language. But there is a catch-22, of course. Even if they can use that right, 99% of schools in Serbia cannot provide that because there are no Roma teachers, there is no a will from, I don't know, school authorities to organize that for a couple of, I don't know, Roma kids. So that's how policy looks like here. Serbia, as like, I don't know, 99% of European countries, we have a good policy. this is a good policy, like
Hmm.
trying to reduce poverty, trying to stop discrimination, stop marginalization, to include them, to enroll them in schools, to give them a proper education, to give them opportunity to have a proper education. But in reality, like mostly there is not money for that. It's always project oriented. So even if you have a successful project that lasts 2 or 3 years, after that, everything comes back to the
Hmm.
starting point. And state is not really willing to, let's say, make a sustainable measures that will really make Roma people and Roma communities in Serbia equal to the other citizens. Of course, officially, we are all equal,
Hmm.
including Roma. They have right to vote, they have right to, and some things definitely changed to, and they are now better than it used to be, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, mostly related to healthcare
Hmm.
or uh, giving a possibility to all people to have a health insurance and education, where you can see a measurable improvement. It's still not enough, but like I can be mean and say that nothing
Sure.
improved.
I find it so interesting that you talk about this, the unknown quantity of the numbers of these populations within communities, because obviously, if they were facing discrimination before, they may not want to make themselves known within those communities, or just uh, kind of trauma from kind of previous generations of what happens when you make yourself known. But also this ability of, I'm not sure if this is the right verbiage, but code switching of presenting yourself as non-Roma in the community, I suppose, and just sort of flying under the radar. And I find that's such an interesting and again sad, just sort of like, yeah, these communities just don't, their voices don't get heard. And I suppose that's why the Heroines project came about, I suppose. You mostly focus on uh, reaching out to women of Romani women. And I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how the Heroines project began and how you were using citizen science to reach out to the female portion of the population and start that collaborative process, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I really love to talk about it. Uh, Carrie's project started because in our recent work, my recent work, like now for more than a decade, I mostly worked with Roma women. And what I realized working with Roma women activists and their organizations is that basically Roma women face double marginalization. It's a marginalization because they're Roma, and the other burden that they are women.
Mhm.
And that's the case with all women in the world, unfortunately. We live in a men's world still, unfortunately. But in case of Roma women, it's even more visible and even more painful in a way, because Roma communities are very conservative. It's very typical because when a community is marginalized or discriminated, the response is mostly very conservative. They close themselves, they become like a gated community in a way. And on the other hand, they are more traditional in a way of patriarchy than, like, let's say, broader society right now. So my impression was that it is very important to reach out to Roma women and to try to give them their voices to be heard in a way. And that was the main reason why we started to think about Heroines project. And on the other hand, like most of my work, and not just mine, but the most people who actually do research in Roma communities and work with Roma communities, it's, as I already put it, most of the time project oriented. So you have a topic, you have an issue, and then you try to make a research to try to, I don't know, do a survey or qualitative research, whatnot. But it's always something that is really hard. It's really tough. Like my first topic when I started to work with Roma communities was child marriage, and it's very sensitive topic. It's really hard topic. for them, for the society as a whole. Then there are many issues with sexual and reproductive violence, domestic violence, poverty, in discrimination. So when you work with Roma communities, most of the time you face something that is, let's say, really tough and uh, somehow hard to swallow because
Hmm.
it's extremely sensitive. And this was the first time when we saw the citizen science call that we could basically start with something that we call beautiful. When I talk to our partners from Roma communities, my first sentence was like, this is the opportunity to finally do something beautiful, something nice, and to work with Roma women and not to ask them if they got married when they were 16, but to ask them to uh, talk about, speak their stories, to talk about their life experiences, their views, and also to give them voice, actually,
Hmm.
to give them voice in a way that can show how resilient they are, how strong they are, how actually invisible, and being in a situation that most of them are living in a really bad conditions. A lot of them got married very early, got children really early, but somehow they managed to make a step further. And for example, their daughters are now in school or finished school. And this is something that's why we titled the project The Heritage of Emancipation, because the
Hmm.
emancipation of Roma women is completely invisible. And it really exists, and it can be a role model for other women to see how it's possible to be resilient and to overcome all the obstacles that mm, they faced in their life, which is much more harder than to, I don't know, than compared to me, because I was born privileged in a way, if you know
Hmm.
what I mean.
So it seemed like it was very important for you to go to these communities, you and your team, and provide them with a platform, not with, and let them speak their their stories rather than coming in with some loaded issues which may or may not land particularly well if you were going to bring them up in these communities, because such as you say, child marriage and something like that. It's allowing them to voice, to provide their own stories and their own voice rather than you coming in with a specific kind of issue that you thought that mm, we would like to address X, perhaps.
Exactly. Exactly. That was the idea, to basically to make a collaborative process from our side as a scientists, let's say,
Hmm.
to provide a model that can work in a community. That's what we call the community mapping. And then let our Roma partners to do the whole research. Basically, the activists from Roma
Hmm.
organizations did the whole research. We were there just to like exchange ideas and to give support, but we were not present during the interviews or the focus groups. And that, I think that's the key point of citizen science and such, to provide what science can offer,
Hmm.
and then to let the community to do good things with the scientific model you actually, I don't know, designed.
So this is a bit of a nuts and bolts question, I suppose, going back to this is the citizen science of it all. And uh, so working with these communities, were the people on your team of Roma descent? Was it important to bring them into to bring them into on board with the Heroines project to be an active part of the research and the work that you were doing? Or was there any additional, how did how did the communities that you were working with uh, take to you, I suppose? It was like, was there a lot of work that needed to be done to build those bridges between you and the community?
It's And that is a specificity of this project. It's a long-lasting collaboration. It wouldn't be possible to do that just like coming, I don't know, out of the blue and saying, let's go and let's do this project."
Hmm.
I personally, and like my team as well, we have a strong ties and strong collaboration with the different Roma women organizations now for years, and we did a lot of things together. And during that period, of course, the trust was built, and we became even friends in ways with
Mhm.
some of those women. Uh, but the most important thing is that you really cannot expect that you will build a bridge without an effort. You can't just apply for a project and say, okay, let's, I don't know, do this with and that with this or that community. If you don't have an idea and already established ties and collaboration with some communities, especially when the topic is sensitive like ours is, uh, then it won't really work. It's
Mhm.
very important to take this. That's why I think the my disciplinary background, the disciplinary background from a couple of my colleagues, we come from anthropology. So we are anthropologists, and ethnography is our main method. And the main principle of ethnography is you just don't show up somewhere and ask questions. You have to build trust firstly. If you don't do that, your research wouldn't
Mhm.
really work. And we had like luck. It's not luck, it's years of collaboration, actually, and the trust that was built between our institute, our colleagues from Faculty of Philosophy, and Roma Women organizations and Roma Women Network in Serbia, that we could easily trust each other that the process will be smooth, because we already knew that many of Roma activists are completely capable to do their research and just to be, let's say, uh, to, I don't know, provide them with a sort of a manual or help them how to do this community
Mhm.
mapping, but they were completely ready to do that. I always say that some of them are better anthropologists than a lot of my colleagues.
And it sounds like they were these, as you say, you were working with these communities for a long time, building these trusts and positioning yourself as a, a part of the community, perhaps. That might be a little bit on the stronger side, but making yourself known to these communities as someone that is a safe space to work with, I suppose. I'm just wondering how, over the years of you working with these communities in Serbia, uh, how did these focus groups and this community mapping, what, how did that kind of build upon the work of producing positive change, producing new policy, and make these voices heard within a wider national scope, I suppose, and what has been the major impacts of your work?
Uh, Sorry, something freezed, so I didn't hear that.
Oh, don't worry. Just try. I can. So the question is, you've been working with these communities for a long time and become very familiarized within and known as a safe space to be working with throughout this time. I'm just wondering if you could describe some of the impacts that these focus groups and this community mapping has had upon elevating these voices to influence new policy and to drive positive change throughout the time you've been working within these communities.
I think the biggest impact is the methodology,
Hmm.
because this community mapping methodology is really collaborative. It's designed to be collaborative, and something that means a lot for me and my colleagues who actually worked on this design of methodology is words by Roma activists who did, I don't know, so many research in the last 20, 25 years focused on everything literally. So they saw a lot of uh, guides for interviews, they saw a lot of surveys, they have experience with that. And they told us that this manual we basically wrote and this methodology of community mapping is something they've never seen before, and it's the best thing they worked with. So they asked us immediately if it is possible to use this methodology not just to map women's emancipation, And we were like, yeah, exactly. That is the point. This
Hmm.
is a methodology that you can apply for every issue and everything that you, I don't know, locate and perceive as something you should think about in the community. So if it is, I don't know, a lack of, I don't know, absence of restaurants in your area, you can use a community mapping methodology. But of course, you can use it for this kind of thing that we are using it to map women's emancipation. Uh, so this is I think, the biggest impact because I know that they are already using this manual
Hmm.
to work on other things and work on other projects. That's something that is, I think, it will be one of the most important parts of the project, that methodology will be recognized. It's something that can be uh, leveraged in a different and in various communities. Uh, and on the other hand, I think visibility is something that is very important because what one scientific and one research institute, run research institution or a faculty can provide is a, let's say, space, a
Hmm.
mainstream space. And that's what we are providing through this, because we actually make this connection between science and activism and work and recognizing marginalization of one group. And that's how we put together something that it's really hard to avoid in public.
Hmm.
That's what is our idea. That's why we want to make a big exhibition, and we will do that in November here in Belgrade. Then that's why we want and we plan a lot of other things next year, thanks to this award.
Hmm.
But we will talk about that later.
So it sounds like you obviously decided to use citizen science as your method and to produce these methodologies. It feels like citizen science is really the only way of really conducting this work and doing this outreach within these Roma communities, and that, yeah, just how citizen science it goes beyond kind of traditional means to give opportunities to marginalized groups to have their voices heard and to be part of the research and to have them feel as they are part of the solution rather than being worked around by researchers, I suppose. Do you think that's an important part of the work that you're doing? To have them
Oh,
feel involved in driving this
definitely,
change?
and not just feel involved, but to be involved
Of
because
course, yes.
they are involved, and that's something that I'm particularly proud of this project because we really managed. We didn't know that. Even our Roma colleagues from Roma organization didn't know that. When we started, it was an experiment. We like hoped that everything will be fine, but we got the results that were among any expectations from all of us in a way how community reacted just when they had the opportunity just to let them speak out.
Hmm.
And that's something because it's definitely different. You use a science when you, I don't know, design a research about child marriage. Of course, you do use a scientific methodology, but you have a specific issue and you're focusing on, and then you follow that. And there is no role of someone you talk except it's your interlocutor, your interviewee. In this context, every woman who was involved in this research, in focus groups, in during the interviews, they were all part of it.
Hmm.
And it's also like a collaboration during the whole process because we changed a lot. Like our methodology was when we first drafted the methodology, we reached out immediately to our Roma partners and we were like, take a look and tell us what you think. And then we had a lot of meetings and they were like, this is great. This is maybe too much. This is stupid. Just
Hmm.
like, let's get rid of this. And the whole process functioned like that. So uh, I think we managed to different layers to involve citizens, really involved in the research. And this is, as such, I would say, the impact that this project made. And my impression also is because like, citizen science is something that is really, I don't know, when you talk about citizen science, you talk about anthropology.
Hmm.
because we work with people. That's it. We work with people, and the very idea of citizen science is something that is very idea of anthropology. Uh, and what I saw, I don't know, in my not long experience with citizen science is that natural sciences sometimes lack this contact with people.
Hmm.
They do the top-down approach because they are not used to work with communities in a way. That's why I always think that the best thing would be, because of course STEM is important, but there is no STEM without philosophy. There is no STEM without anthropology. There is no science without society, and there is no science without communities and
Hmm.
outside of communities. And that's like when we think about citizen science, whatever, if it is biology, ecology, physics, anthropology, sociology, we should collaborate in a way that someone can provide community and some can
Hmm.
provide the science. Uh, and that's why this, I think, and I'm really proud and extremely grateful that our project was recognized on such a like top level
Hmm.
that we can also have a voice to say that this is the best way how citizen science should improve in a way that this when you have and when you build trust with the community, you can basically do whatever you want. uh, it doesn't have to be, I don't know, an anthropological project or a heritage studies project about heritage emancipation. It can be a project about, I don't know, radioactivity in
Hmm.
some neighborhoods. So that's, I wanted just to go, I don't know, put things together, thinking about citizen science. I don't know if I like got it too much.
No, like there's citizen science is such a big umbrella, and there are examples of projects that just use the thin end of the wedge of citizen science, and there's still sort of the old-fashioned way of thinking where, oh, it's citizen science if we just get a load of volunteers to collect data for us, which used to be how it was done for a long time. But I think now, as the practice and the methodologies have grown, it's really developed into that way of, as you say, a bottom-up approach and this positive feedback loop and this flexibility that lots of more traditional science approaches just do not have.
Yeah, and our project and the recognition of our project is definitely a proof for that,
Hmm.
because it's for us it's kind of amazing to be recognized as such.
You mentioned before about some outreach work. You were mentioning doing an exhibition and that sort of thing. I'm just wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail about the role of public engagement and the role that has played with connecting the Roma community with the wider public in Serbia, and how these sort of events can try and help foster greater understanding or solidarity or the footsteps towards that, perhaps.
It's definitely very important. Roma organizations manage to, like, let's say, become a part of a sort of a political mainstream, but it's still not enough. And it's, let's say, built into institutions in a way. It's definitely not enough, but there is some representation. But in public, it's still far, far, far away from, let's say, ordinary people. And when you listen to stories about Roma among, I don't know, in the bus or on the green market or in school, uh, it's always full of prejudices. It's always full of prejudices that Roma people are poor, that they are, I don't know, dirty and filthy, and they live in like bad conditions, and they will steal something from you. Like every prejudice you can imagine. and
Hmm.
uh, and the only way how to change that is to, uh, let's say, open a space for uh, events like this serve to put Roma culture and Roma heritage in the mainstream.
Hmm.
Because what was very important for us and for our Roma partners was to make this exhibition in the very city center in one of the most prestigious galleries in it is a gallery of Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts, which is
Hmm.
really fancy. And it never happened in like history that any type of Roma culture was represented in this institution. And that's something what we are trying to open, to open space that it is completely normal and not just normal, but we should encourage the promotion of Roma culture, and not in a way that we will support a traditional Roma festival, who knows where,
Hmm.
uh, but to open up a regular space, a mainstream artistic space, and to make an exhibition about Roma women's emancipation.
And I think open up, I like the idea of opening up space, but also, I don't know, the idea of feeling free to take up space within these, like to have an exhibition about the Roma community within this cornerstone of Belgrade just seems that making sure that they feel like they're present rather than just in the background a little bit.
They should claim that space because it
Hmm.
belongs to them, like to any citizens, a citizen of Serbia. And that's the idea, to basically occupy those spaces and to say what we all know, that we should all be equal and we all should all have the same way of representation.
Hmm. No, it, very, that sounds fantastic and really interesting. I wanted to take a little bit of a step forward of obviously Heroines was the winner of this year's European Union Prize for Citizen Science, and a huge congratulations again. And
Thank
depending
you.
on when this is released, this may be before we're recording just before the Ars Electronica Festival. The video may come out a little bit after. I'm just wondering what is coming next for the Heroines project now you've received a little this extra funding from Impetus and the Ars Electronica from the Ars Electronica team. What's next down the pipeline for Heroines?
We have this planned exhibition that will definitely happen in November, late November and beginning of December.
Hmm.
And what we plan is to go all over Serbia next year with the exhibition that will be adjusted to a local context and the local
Hmm.
communities. Because we did our research in three different cities in Serbia, one in southern Serbia, one in Belgrade in central Serbia, and one in eastern Serbia. This big exhibition will be in Belgrade. Then we won't immediately move to this town, city in southern Serbia, and then go to Kostolac, which is town in eastern Serbia, and then to try to find a way how to make this exhibition visible in many different parts uh, of our country,
Hmm.
and to again try to make it visible in a way to use uh, let's say, a very mainstream spaces to make this exhibition happen,
Hmm.
to put Roma into Roma communities into center. Uh, that is our idea, and now we have funding for that, so that will definitely happen. We still
Hmm.
have to make like detailed plans, but this is what we plan to do in next year, a year and a half.
That sounds amazing. And yeah, just getting reaching out to other communities that obviously you've got quite close knit to certain people in certain communities, but to be able to pass this on to the whole population of Serbia, is there any like would you be thinking of moving on to like communities in other countries? Or I know because of the extensive work you've done, it'd be quite hard to exactly emulate this project in for another organization in another country because of all the groundwork you've done. But is there scope for moving beyond Serbia, or do you think this community is how to articulate this? Are like if you were going to work within Romania, perhaps, or another country where uh, there's a big, well, a significant population of Roma people, do you think you could go and replicate this work again, or do you think it's quite unique to the community that you've worked with in Serbia?
Uh, I don't think it is unique. This methodology can be used everywhere.
Hmm.
What is important and what I think what is the biggest importance of this award is basically to become more visible and to make different networks to make these things, as you pointed out, possible.
Hmm.
Because now I will probably meet someone who is working in Hungary or in Romania, and then we can say like, okay, what is happening in the field. This project was great in Serbia. Are you interested to like collaborate with us and to make something similar in your context, in your community?
Hmm.
So I think this this award and like to be in the to be even capable to be visible in a way that we will be now will help to spread this in every context because whoever is interested is definitely, let's say, easier to work, I don't know, in a neighboring country like Montenegro, but why not in Hungary? Why not in Slovakia? Why not in Bulgaria? Why not? That's something that we are definitely thinking about.
Sure. And that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to see where the heroine's journey goes next. That is my last official question. I just wanted to ask if there was anything you would like to share or anything we might have missed that you would want to just make available to our listeners.
I just wanted to invite you. We will have a small exhibition in Linz as well. We were invited to exhibit there as well.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
I just want to invite you to. It will be really a nice position, so it will be
Hmm.
quite visible. We are now working on it, of course, like deadlines are
So,
always
yes, of
very
course,
tough.
yeah.
uh, but yeah, like you are more than welcome to join us there.
Oh, I'm very sure I'll make myself available and we'll come find you and
Yeah,
shake your
yeah.
hand in person.
When you see
Yes.
heroines, please come.
Uh, I just want to say congratulations again and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to say something more about the project.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye
Thank
for now.
you. Bye.